Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast, brought to you by Huntworth. Huntworth gear for all types of weather, all types of terrain, all types of budgets. It's clothing that just works. Check them out at huntworthgear.com. And we are getting into the season of moving forward. Lots of parts going. I mean, I've been trying to get my bow sighted in for tack, trying to kill a turkey, and we just had the giant big NRC meeting vote, and if you guys haven't been paying attention to that, you kind of been living under a rock and see how that played out. This podcast, we talk a little bit about that. Got Skeeter Beckman, Experience Wild, and then Nate stopped by to hop in on this one. They were both at the meeting, and this one kind of goes all over the place. I want to talk to Eric, Skeeter Beckman. He's been on the podcast before talking mushrooms. He and I did our kind of co-opted our bear bait last year, and just catching up. I mean, we talk quite a bit and have coordinated quite a bit because he is on the Rome Shoot podcast. He's hosting that up. So we talk a little bit about that and the stuff that's going on over there. And this was a really, really fun podcast. But as far as the things that are going on right now, just getting my arrows ready for tack. And I actually bought some of those really cheap Amazon arrows, and I'm cutting the blazer vanes off and putting zingers on. So I got those coming. I've been going back and forth with Brian to see which are the correct zingers for those. Was supposed to work one of the days, a little portion of the day for the Friday shoot, so I got that taken care of. So I got the entire Crystal Mountain tack straightened away. I don't believe it's any strange graduation for my daughter for elementary school this year, so I won't have to run back home for anything. So really, really looking forward to that. I've been on the phone with Jared from Vitalize Seed to get some seed so we can put that in the ground for the properties up in the UP, and going to expand the food plot situation up there a little bit, and got a bigger tractor up there, so I think we're going to be able to do a little bit more, put a little bit more seed in the ground, and looking forward to that. And, you know, if you've been paying attention with the NRC rules, there's no changes in the UP, so we don't have to worry about that. We can take next year we can take our second buck tag up there. So all's well on the northern front. So looking forward to that. Been talking back and forth, making some arrangements for our Patreon camp, for the deer season already. Trying to put some things into place for that, and just kind of getting the ball rolling on all fronts here. Again, really, this is the quote unquote like the slow season, the summer season, but it just seems like there's so much going on. Trail cameras, food plots, scrapes, mock scrapes, scouting, and there's definitely a lot of ticks out there. So just be mindful of that. At work, we've been treating a lot of people for tick bites. I'd say more than usual this year. So just be aware of that. And got a big announcement coming up with a new partner we're bringing on. Going to get just a few more details on that, but everything is going well. Just want to get a little bit of the messaging straightened away. But that's coming out. And then, I don't know if I should say anything, but working on a product that I'm really excited about here, coming up, hoping to have some prototypes ready by TAC to have some things ready for the hunting season this year. So keep your eyes open for that sort of stuff. But yeah, this podcast is super fun. I think it's going to be a good listen, kind of all over the place, but you'll listen for 10 minutes and hear Skeeter talk, and you'll realize he too is all over the place, but it's always a good time. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. As always, thanks for listening. All right. Another episode of the Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast with look, I was gonna just have Mr. Skeeter Beckman on here, and his handler, his boss said, "Hey, I can't have him on there without me." So I got Nate Rozeveld on here. He's running the Rome Podcast Network, and he's like, "I never know what Skeeter's gonna say, so I gotta." Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I gotta handle him. But it's funny because I thought, we all live so close. I thought Eric was coming over, and I told my daughter that, and he goes, "What, you mean Alvy's coming over?" Because of the fishing report from yesterday. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who doesn't know who Skeeter Eric Beckman is, let's give a little bit of an introduction. We did a podcast. We've done a couple of podcasts, I think. Did we ever do a bear hunting podcast after you got your bear?
No, we still need to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Anders keeps bugging me all the time. We gotta do a podcast. Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I heard you on the Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast, but I can't remember. Is this what it was about though? I feel like you guys. Was that what it was? Mushrooms? Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that's the first time I heard your voice on the airwaves.
Yeah, hunting mushrooms.
And then I was like, oh, fishing report. Oh, this. And I started following all the stuff. So, yeah. How long ago was that?
It was a bit. It was before we started talking about all
bear
the Rome things.
Well, it was before bear hunting.
Before bear hunting.
A year ago now. Year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah, so let's get an introduction because you have quite the repertoire.
I do. So I suffer severely from ADHD. I can't let things go by me. If I see an opportunity, I have to take it. So I was a local bait shop owner. I started a bait shop because I had a tackle box that was too big. And all this stuff was kind of piling up. And my wife said, "You should open a bait shop and sell these things to people." And I went, "You're right, I should." So I bought a bait shop probably a month later. And she said, "What did you buy?" And I go, "I bought a bait shop. It's right down the road." And she's like, "Oh, we're business owners now?" I went, "Well, I am." So I started the bait shop, was pretty successful, had a couple of different partners. I think 3 in the time of the bait shop. One was just an investor. Second one was really into fishing. Unfortunately, that did not work out. So then my last partner, he came on board to help me sell the business and close it up. That was when COVID really hit. COVID was tough on little shops, smaller bait shops. And if they weren't super established, it was really hard to get inventory, and I was still kind of going, I would say, a little hand to mouth on that. When China said they couldn't get hooks, but Rapala said they would send me every bait that they had without hooks on it, I was a little bit bummed out. Everybody who had a lot of back stock, and that's really when Amazon took off, 2019. It's like everybody's like, "Oh, I can have this here in a couple days." So I knew it was time to get out of that industry. While I was owning the bait shop, I started a little thing called Skeeter's Fishing Report. So Skeeter's Fishing Report really took off, and the locals took to it. We had some sponsors for the fishing report. So I just decided to continue doing the fishing report. Fishing report, Experience Wild. Experience Wild is a network that we started that was actually a spinoff of Bow Hunter Planet. So Bow Hunter Planet wanted something that was a little bit different than just bow hunting. We started working with a few companies, getting some deals, doing some things, and making some commercials and shorts for them. Continued with the Skeeter's Fishing Report, and I was approached by the guys from Rome and said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast? Rome shoot?" I said, "Yeah, I don't sleep. I would love to do Rome shoot. I have lots of people." So since I'm involved in the fishing industry and the outdoor industry with both Experience Wild and what I do just on the day-to-day, I know a lot of people. So since I know a lot of people, it was a good fit and have people I can talk to. And you guys to mentor me and teach me how to use my equipment that I still don't know how to use very well. So thanks for the coaching before this episode to tell me that I had everything on mute and make myself look like an idiot.
But that's not entirely true. Because
be an idiot, or
oh no, that's true.
That's
That's 100% true. I mean, you don't got to know him very long to know that. But no, because Eric I talked to Eric multiple times about like trying to get a podcast set up, and because of everything that he does, and how he does it, and the people that he knows, and like his passion for just the outdoors, and it's not like the fishing thing is one thing, but it's like, even with like now the Rome guys and the Rome podcast guys, it's like, if you were to mention one little thing about the outdoors, you're like, oh, have you ever heard of these guys that like trap nutria rats like in Papua New Guinea? And he's like, well, I used to do that. I was into that for a while. Like, what? Like, and so he was like, yeah, I need to get a podcast going. And, we went over it a whole bunch of times, and I'd reach out to him and be like, hey, what's going on with the podcast? And he's just like, failure to launch, man, failure to launch. And when the Rome podcast thing, when Nate was like, man, I don't want to do an episode every week. I want to try and get another guy to do it. And then he's like, I got 6 guys lined up. And I'm like, well, if you need another guy, and he's like, well, I already got a fishing guy. And I'm like, well, let's just try this guy. We'll throw him. He's got a lot of guns, so let's throw him in the mix, and we'll see where he fits. And I think he's kind of fit in pretty well. Would you say, Nate?
That was a great free agency ad, for that. But yes, that's how. As soon as you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, like that guy makes complete sense. And when you're trying to do anything with multiple people, it's like the fit, right? Like we got to all get along and be, that's the dynamic of a team that's so important. And it was like instantly like, yep, this jives, this works. And we wanted guys that spend time outside and know how to do the things that they do and are passionate about it and a little crazy, and Skeeter fits the bill for a lot of that stuff. So I think one of the first times me and Skeeter had a conversation on the phone, I don't even remember what we talked about the most time. It was like foraging and cookbook and, just all this stuff. Like we just get on a little, like even today, that's how I knew about the podcast, because we talked during the middle of the day today, and then we just started talking and going around and around all this stuff. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing a podcast with Adam tonight. I was like, perfect. I have nothing going on, so I'll hop on too. I invited myself. But it's because I, selfishly wanted to learn a little more about Skeeter's background too. And not to steal this intro at all with him, but like when you were doing the shop, Skeeter, did you work full time there? Did you have your day job and run a shop at the same time?
No, I had my day job. I never actually, I worked at the bait shop almost on a daily basis, but it was never my full-time gig. It was always just, it was a hobby.
Yeah. Well, and people who are listening to this, I've seen a video of the bait setup he currently has at his house, and it looks like a bait shop in his room. Like he's got one of everything. So I'm not surprised one bit that you want to do a bait shop at some
And that's
point.
just what's inside. You haven't been outside to like the shed. Like that's
No, it's just what he's
Yeah.
got on display. It is
Yeah,
bait
no,
stuff.
the outside, the outside shed that we actually made a mini bait shop out of for a while. So I had minnows in there, like live bait and ready to go. Just because when I want it, I don't want to go buy it. Like I'd rather just have it. So I'd run down and trap minnows after I got done with work, and I'd throw a couple gallons of shiners in there, and my buddies would stop by and get shiners.
There you go. Get your. All right. This is not because I'm trying to do anything here other than pouch in my head. You got to pick one out of three: fishing, predator hunting, or whitetail hunting. What are you picking? Or four. We could throw foraging in there too. I guess foraging's kind of under the hunting side of things, but
It is, I did limbs and lead podcast this week, and they asked me, would you take a bow or would you take a rifle if you had one weapon to use for the rest of your life? And I struggled with that because I have like the tism that I have. I really think about that stuff and go, I don't want to answer this wrong, but I ended up choosing a rifle just because of the predator hunting. I'll tell you, I probably predator hunt more than I fish, and I enjoy it a lot. But if I had to give up fishing, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. I think I would have to choose fishing. But my style of fishing is similar to hunting.
That's so funny because that's the exact same thing that John says, and he's like, but when I'm fishing, like I'm hunting, like I'm doing all this stuff, and like on the last podcast, like I don't know if you guys listened to it when you were talking to John about like the saltwater fishing and stuff like that. He talks about, we were talking about like guys like, I don't know, maybe you throw Nate in there, but he's just like the private land guy, but he's like you talk about these guys that just like eat, sleep, and breathe, like all they think about all day is just like these whitetails and like how they can just kill this big whitetail, and that's how he's talking about keeping logbooks and doing all this stuff, and he's like, I just don't have the time for that, I got too much going on. But I'm like, dude, you do that for your trips to the Keys, like you have all these notes about like where the structure is, like where you got on fish, like what the water temperatures were, like all of this stuff. And he's like, well, yeah, but that's fishing, like that's how I fish. And like, yeah, I mean, so, but I just, I have no desire. Like, it's just
To fish?
not at all. Like the only fishing that I truly enjoy, like I don't mind like salmon fishing. Like I'll go out and ride around the boat, and I got spooled by, everybody will say the same thing, but like this was a 30-pound king. Like last year, like we got spooled by a big fish. Fishing with my daughter, and my buddy's got a real nice boat, and it was fun. But I just think that our access to it, like everybody that has a boat, you can go salmon fishing, you can get on a boat anytime. So the allure to it isn't that great. But when I go
not that.
when I go to Mexico, or when I go like on vacation, like I want to go saltwater fishing because you never know what's going to be on the end of the line. And we had like one of the most epic fishing trips ever on what would have been like the least likeliest trips. I mean, we were fishing out of like a 22-foot panga with a tiller motor 8 miles out in the Pacific Ocean. We were in the Gulf, I think, but I think we were on the Pacific side, I think. Yeah, we were on the Pacific side. So we were in the Pacific Ocean. And, we had used this charter before because we'd stayed down there. But, I mean, really cool owner. But the guys they don't speak great English.
Not at all.
They have no electronics. They have no nothing. They got a cell phone. They're calling their buddies. And we're looking for mahi-mahi, right? And so we're basically chasing birds. And we found some, and we found like a small school, and they're like, they get a call and they're like, there's a bait ball over here. And we roll up and, you know, you can just see all these boats. And so we're like, man, this is going to suck. There's like 10 boats, you know, like not what you would want, like the fishing that you would expect, you know? And we went 13 for 30, I think. I mean, and there's fish everywhere, and everybody, like all these boats were hooked up at the same time. I mean, it was a feeding frenzy, and it was nuts. And one of our well, Eric Nelson was with us, but one of our other buddies was like, he caught like 1 or 2 fish and was just puking over the side, and we're like, sorry, dude, like we're staying here till this subsides, you know. And
yeah, you're
yeah, that's me. I'm a puker for sure.
And it was, I mean, that was just super awesome. And like, again, the same thing is like something that I can't get here. Whereas like everything else, I feel like when we used to fish steelhead, like that's exciting. You know, I like catching those fish and I like fishing the river, but it's like the time factor with everything else going on. I don't have that passion for it. Now, like when I'm on vacation and I'm somewhere else, like I don't want to necessarily just like lay on the beach or whatever. So to take my time, like what do I want to do? Like, yeah, then I'll go out and fish, but nah.
Yeah, I can't do it. My wife always says it's a waste of time to take me on a vacation. You know, went to Mexico and I spent 2 days trying to catch one of those monkeys.
But like when we've gone on, like when we go to Mexico, like we've done all sorts of charters. Like we've done we didn't do any good. It wasn't a great day, but we surf fished for rooster fish. Like we found a guy that was like a guy that did that, and that's super fun. You know, just completely different. You know, something that you can't really get here, and just seeing those fish come out of the water, and you know, just super cool. But you know, and you know, for us, for anybody that's listening, that's not like where, like especially like where Skeeter and I live, the water is there. Like it's like, I mean, there's a lake 100 yards from my house. Like, and you know, then if you want to get to a bigger lake, it's, you know, go a couple miles, and you want to go to the big lake, you go 1 mile further. It's like, we take so much for granted here that it just doesn't, I don't have that allure.
Yeah, I can't leave it alone. I have that. There's every animal, every creature needs Skeeter to pick it up.
Well, and for you, Skeeter, like you talked about that because you went rabbit hunt with me this winter, and that was a great time. But we kind of were, you know, when you're rabbit hunting, you get some downtime to talk about some things, and you kind of like you want to become really good at each one of these things. Like you're able to dive into it. Like right now, current events like predator hunting's been like the big thing for you. Like you've really dove into, you know, weapon calibers, thermal, optics, how to become a good coyote hunter, and you're like working through that progression. But then you talk about your past. It's like, well, yeah, I did walleye, you know, tournaments. I did this. I've you know caught some giant brown trout in the rivers. You know, went through all those things. So I think it's kind of cool that the progression of you as an outdoorsman is, you know, your vast experience is through all these things. Where, you know, if you look at me from my past, you know, years, like I'm primarily a whitetail hunter. Like that's kind of been my niche, you know, and when the kid gets older, or as he's gotten older, maybe I've been able to kind of branch out into a couple more things. But I think a lot of guys can relate to like, hey, I had to fixate on this thing because I can think whitetail's pretty easy 365 because of this phone, right? I can, you know, Onyx Scout or Spartan Forge and look at all the different layers in your Scout. Like before bed, I'll lay down for 20, 30 minutes and just be cruising on the maps because I think I might be going out of state this year somewhere. Like that was just like the easy choice for me to pick that. And then like this time, like the spring, like going in the rivers and going after fish, like the time of year that is, like, man, I'm just coming out of whitetail hunting, going hard. Like there's no way I can just be gone from the family that much more. So you kind of got to sacrifice some things, but you've definitely made the progression through things. Like you know, but I look at it too, like where am I going to be at in the next, you know, 10 years? And you can do a lot in a short amount of time these days. You just got to like shift that focus.
Oh, absolutely. And I take things to a weird level. So I got to be real careful about the things that I choose. I knew coyote hunting was going to be a super slippery slope. And then when I got involved with Brent and USA, it was relatively easy because, they hand you a $2,000 Predator rifle and you go, I guess I'm going to predator hunt. And then they don't tell you you're going to spend your money like a drunk sailor when you start predator hunting. But it was relatively easy to do. That's my personality. That's the reason why I don't reload. Like I won't do it. I won't do it. I will not get any reloading stuff. I thought about it a couple times and then I go, I'm going to take this to this really weird level and I'm going to dork out and make bullets and never leave my basement. I'm only to go shoot them and then I'm coming back.
So when you say to like taking things to like a weird level, I want to do like a story time with Skeeter. And I don't think you told this on the podcast but I know you told it to some of us about, I think you were coming back from coyote hunting and you got pulled over. Oh, yeah. And you said you had a very interesting conversation with the cop.
Yeah.
So how did that conversation go? Like what was going on there?
Police are one of those things I worry about when I'm coyote hunting because of the, when you have to tell the cop when they come up, you go, hey, I got hands up, and you go, I'm CPL holder and I'm carrying a firearm. And you go, okay, where is it? And I go, it's on a magnet right here at my right knee. And I've still got my hands up. And he's like, okay, well, you can go ahead and relax. Let's not make any quick movements or go for that. And we'll just leave it right there. And I go, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, you got any other guns in the vehicle? And I go, we're about to have a really weird conversation, dude. And he goes, what? And I was like, man, I've got rifles in this car. And he's like, or in my truck. And he's like, how many rifles do you have? And I go, I have 3. But under my seat right here, I've got a 10mm Glock. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, if you want to see any of them, like we can look at them. And then I'm like, I'm Skeeter. This is what I do. Do you want to go coyote hunting? And this guy's like, and then he's like asking me about what I do. And, we're just telling him I'm up here and I do these for these people. I take care of their properties. I chase coyotes and I'm bear hunting right now. So I've got my 10mm Glock and my chest rig is right here on the floor, but my 9mm carry gun is right here magneted to the dashboard, and both of those rifles that are in the back are suppressed. Do you need to see any paperwork? And he's like, let's just forget about it. Slow down. Here's your stuff. like go ahead and take off. And yeah, it was a cool interaction, but every time I get like 3 or 4 guns in my vehicle and I'm like, all right, this is gonna get weird. And I've told my wife a couple times I was not going very much over the speed limit, but I was going over the speed limit and I passed a state trooper and just being me, I took my foot off of the gas and she looks at me and she goes, are we going to be in trouble? And I go, not unless we get pulled over. Like I gotta explain why I have 2 carry pistols on me and rifles in the back and you don't have a CPL. Maybe you should get one. It'd be easier to get out of these situations. So, yeah, I guess it depends on who you get that wants to regulate on you. But, yeah, he was a cool guy. He was from the area. He knew some of the landowners that I was taking care of. And it was a much longer conversation, but that was the gist of it. Why don't you get out of here? Like, bring your guns home.
Yeah, 2 a.m.
So he takes things to a, I don't want to say like, just think of like, what's the movie? Like the Santa Claus? Like, I think you're taking this to an unhealthy level.
Yeah, that's it. And it's never the conversations you have with other people. It's the conversation I always have with my wife, because she's always surprised. And I go, when are you not going to be surprised about this anymore? It's like, yes, we have too many. I've got rifles in this truck and I sighted this in and I broke this gun in the other day and I knew I was probably going to hit the range, on my way home, but I wanted to shoot my arc and I wanted to shoot my Grendel. And, the other one's just an upper that's laying in there. So that's not really a rifle. Like, like I'm trying to justify it.
Well, you never know. You might change your luck up. That gun wasn't good at that spot, so switch guns out to get it. Get some mojo out. Be lucky.
But I wasn't even talking about that. I was just talking about every hobby like that you have. Like,
So I
to
do
what
once a
level?
week. I do like a sportsman's dump. Like, I back the truck up to the garage, and if you go in my garage, I've got just like racks of stuff, and it's like I'm obsessed with backpacks and knives. So like I have lots of backpacks. If you ever have a backpack that you need to sell, you just go send me a text and go, I got this backpack. It's got lots of pockets, and guaranteed I'm going to buy it. So I
That's why you guys were bidding on those
yeah,
backpacks against each other. I gotcha.
so I get when I closed the bait shop, I took all the grid wall stuff, which was all the merchandising grid wall that was on the shop, and I hung it all up in my garage. So I put peg hooks like all on this grid wall, and then I pack a backpack, and it's like, okay, this is my coyote backpack, and it's got to be right here next to this 110 outlet because I got all my plugs right there. So I hang the backpack up, and then a quick plug everything in, and that's ready to go. So we're ready to rock and roll. But then right next to it is like my brown trout fishing backpack. So I got to grab that and throw that in the truck. And then I've got rod holders in the truck so I can stick my rod holders so that my rods cross in the back of my truck. And it's been a lot of rods crossing guns and turkey decoys. And yeah, all of that stuff.
Forge
There's
and
a process. But if you came in and looked at it, you'd go, what are you doing, bro? And I go, I everything. That's what I'm doing. Everything.
Nate, you guys have both been to my garage. It's nowhere near that organized, but it's the same principle.
Same, yeah, a little bit of everything in Adam's garage.
Yeah, and don't think that mine's organized for me. My ADHD knows where those things are. But if you looked at it, you were just like, man, you have mountains of junk. Like you got mountains of stuff. Like I do.
Love it. Love it. Well, is that what born Am I a Felon? Is all these opportunities you found yourself in and all the stuff you've done that you're like, I can do it. Am I a Felon segment? No
The
problem.
Am I a felon segment, I think it was born from some of these interactions, but then my brain not being able to turn off. And Nate, you walked into a Am I a Felon? Like
I did. I was going to bring that up. I wrote a note down about that.
Yeah, so Nick Jasmine, who is a account manager at my shop, he's well versed on guns. He's been around. He was a Coast Guard guy and on some of the regulatory side, so he knows some things and he loves his weapons. Well, Nick and I feed off of each other with the Am I a Felon? You go, okay, so here's the scenario. So, and this started with I really wanted to build an AR pistol, and it was like, okay, but I want to suppress it. So at what point can I be legal in calling this a rifle? So we started with okay, if you take a pistol and actually if you take a rifle and then take a pistol barrel and put it on that rifle, but then you put a can on there. But if it's a can that's on there, that makes your 16-inch barrel, now you got to pin it so it can't be removed. And that's how we can make a short suppressed rifle that's right at 16 that meets and so it was, ticking all those boxes and making sure you're meeting the criteria. But then me coming up with something different and go, okay, am I a felon if, and then I would throw out some crazy scenarios. So
Yeah, I got to experience that when I went over to pick up some of my electronics after the NRC meeting. And I was like, all right, Skeeter, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I have. Like, where am I? And I was just like, oh, like, yep, I'm a felon. I've been a felon, and I didn't realize it. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it. I was very close to being a felon without realizing it. And I think I mean, everyone can relate to that. Like, because I was thinking, oh, I got this AR pistol that has this kind of a stock on it, and I can just use that. And you're like, no, as soon as that thing goes against your shoulder, it is no longer that. And I was like,
well, they kind of like walked that back a little bit so far. I mean, this month or whatever.
Yeah, once I shoot something with it, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh yeah, cool, you shot that cool buck, but it's ours now because you had the wrong weapon. So it's like, all right, then let's dive into a short barrel rifle. And like Skeeter's just like, da 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 da. I'm like, holy, I'm gonna have like 3 more guns by the end of this conversation. Like, let's do it.
It's a super slippery slope.
Yeah.
Well,
It really is.
all right. So I know that we're off the deep end in the bow hunter world, but stick with us because this is
Hey,
fun.
Rome shoots around for a reason.
So, I know you're a like Form 1 guy, so you can like that would be building your own
Yeah.
whatever. So we talked about it on his podcast about suppressors, and I was just there as color commentary to kind of like walk him through his first kind of podcast, whatever. But so with the no tax stamp deal now, what's your stance on like where do you fall on SBRs? Because I've looked pretty hard at now that I found out that they exist. The others, like not a pistol, not a rifle, but a other, and like talking to the guys at the gun store, they're like, well, why don't you just do a SBR because it's just paperwork and just fill out a Form 1 or even just buy one, just fill out the paperwork and just get one. But it's just, I feel like it's such a hassle where, I mean, I feel like you get yourself in a world of shit with the other because you basically have to have the paperwork in your pocket, but at the same time, whatever. And maybe explain what another is as well.
An other weapon. There are many.
In the AR world though, and other.
Oh.
So when you get a stripped lower, it comes with a box. Like when you're registering it as rifle, pistol, or other. So, are you familiar with the others?
Well, I'm familiar with others, but not in AR world. So what's a AR other?
So if you like look, you can go and kind of similar to like a honey badger style, right? Mm-hmm. But you can essentially, and don't build one on my words, right? Look it up. But they get around it in like New Jersey and some of these places where some of this stuff isn't, it's frowned upon, right? But it basically, if you have essentially a SBR or a pistol length rifle mm-hmm. that has a broomstick on the front, okay, mm-hmm. that makes it designed to not be shouldered.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. Okay.
So it's not a pistol and it's not a rifle, it's an other. And it doesn't require the paperwork.
That's what I register as
and this is why I really hate the ATF rules.
So I think that's what that gun is that I have.
But is it registered as an other, or did you buy it from somebody?
I bought it built.
It's a pistol. Though.
I don't know.
He threw a stock and a broomstick on it, and he just calls it another.
Is it a blade
on the back?
Yeah,
get it for you.
Look at this. Well, don't do that. Don't do. The ATF specifically says do not go showing off stuff. Like if you have a car that can go 140 and you drive at 140 and nobody sees you, did you do it?
Right.
Maybe not. But if you go on YouTube and you're like, hey, look at my car, I'm doing 140. Like, we'll show up. You go live with your pistol and you're a felon, and the cops show up. Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Some of the okay. We're just gonna look at this real quick. Let me just see the back end of it.
Yeah, take it apart, break it down one piece by piece.
You think I can break this thing down?
There's 2 pins.
I'm into the camera one. Just let me see the.
Okay, that's a brace. That's a brace.
That's a brace. You have an AR pistol in your hand. That is not allowed to have anything in the front. You're good. You got an AR pistol.
You got an AR pistol.
Okay, so this is an AR pistol, but this, because of the strap on here,
it's a brace.
It's a brace.
It looks just like a stock, though, to me. Like to my untrained eye, it looks like a stock.
That is a brace.
And move it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's an adjustable brace. You might have a big forearm.
So because that is dished out, and
Yeah,
it's just a little
that's
thing,
designed to be strapped to your arm, so you could
is.
just go.
like this.
Yep.
Yep.
So you don't even just hold it and shoot.
Yep.
It works really
Don't
good like
hit your
this.
No.
shoulder. Now you are a felon.
If I shoot it, I'm a felon.
No, if you shoulder it.
Yeah, if you shoulder it.
But like I said, I think they walked that back.
I think they did too, but you never know where it's going to be
Right.
walked
Today.
later.
So the
Yeah.
barrel length is under 16 inches. So
Yeah,
that's
the
why-
overall length is less than 26. So
okay. That's what puts it as a pistol. I still am afraid to keep my gun loaded or my truck loaded. So,
So
haven't
like
done
I
that
said,
yet.
you put that single point harness around your back,
Yep.
and then you put your hand on that pistol grip and you push forward, and you just tighten that up enough to where that acts as your anchor point is pulling around yourself, and
Yep.
that's how you get steady.
Okay. So when I shoot a big giant buck with my AR pistol in 350 Legend next year, I shot him with that form.
a 350 Legend pistol? That's
Yeah.
wild.
That's what I want because then I can tree stand hunt, saddle hunt with it because it's tiny. That's what I'm trying to get.
Now that we have some different rules, I think you should build that in a 6.5 Grendel,
6.5 Grendel or what was the other 300 Blackout?
a 300
What were we
blackout.
talking about?
But
Talking
you're severely limited on a range with a 300 blackout. You're
But
bow
you're still
hunting.
You're still well with. Ah, come on, you're better than bow hunting.
75 yards.
Oh, really? Then, yeah.
I can shoot a 300 blackout, pretty point blank out to 100.
Okay, so
6.5 Grendel or an arc?
6.5 Grendel. I killed a deer at 369 yards with the Grendel.
And you like that versus the arc from like just recoil, pistol, barrel length, all that? It'll work really well with short barrel.
I think you're going to lose a lot.
Sorry.
Because you're not going to get a full powder burn. This is going to make a hell of a video with a big fireball out the end of that.
Well, that's what
It
the
will.
suppressor's for.
Oh, it'll be dirty. I guarantee you.
Speaking of suppressors, I just watched like the follow-up video on it, and since you're on here, I wanted to say if you had seen it. Did you see Trent Ellis shoot the can off of that 50 cal?
Yes.
Yes. $3,000 can ruined one
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
First shot. And the best part about that, or the worst part about that, is when I first saw it and they were showing him at the side, and you're looking at that can doinkered off the end, and I go, don't shoot it, don't shoot it. And that thing went flying right off. Yeah, you want to run a rod on those first and go.
So do you think it was you think it was legit, or you think it was a Bomar deal? Because Bomar would have just did that on purpose for the clicks.
I don't know, but that was an expensive click, bro. Like
Burn down your Raptor.
Yeah.
the things that could have happened. Like I squinted. I put the safety glasses on when I watched that. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like full on squint.
Yeah.
That seems pretty dangerous to do it on purpose. Like, hey, I have this 50 cal. I'm going to blow the end of this thing off on purpose. That's, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Trent's that way, but I don't know. I thought about the same thing. I was like, from the video, it was like obvious that thing wasn't lined up, and I'm not even a gun guy really. And he did it, and I was like, well, surprise. I had no idea those things were $3,000 though. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
I wasn't even paying attention. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know they made like 50 cal suppressors because it seems counterintuitive. Like it seems impossible. Like it's like
No, and you can't. I mean, you can't dumb that down to the point where it's. I would.
hearing safe.
It's not hearing safe. It's never going to be hearing safe. I don't know if the bolt on that thing is hearing safe, but are you suppressing it? Yes.
Counterweight's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought you'd be the guy to ask about that.
I couldn't imagine those things. I worry about, like, striking baffles and things like that. There's no way. There's no way I would have
Guess
done that.
how much one of those weighs approximately?
I bet you that can weighed 5 pounds.
Yep, 3.5 to 5 pounds. That's so heavy.
Yep.
So my question to you is, with all of the things that we kind of just outlined there, do you feel, and I'm not one for regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like it's okay that anybody can just buy those? And I'm not saying that from like a libtard side, like that shouldn't be in the hands of a regular person, but should there be like an educational piece that goes along with it?
So I think you can look at that in two ways. One's the nice way where you go, yeah, there should be an educational piece where people learn about anything. I mean, you have an educational piece on driving, and if you're going to do anything with a rifle or modify it in any way, even if it's just a bolt on, you should know something about it before you do it. And there's another part of me that goes, we have eliminated a lot of natural selection, and maybe this would just take care of some of those problems. Like I don't, I mean, you can't fix stupid. Like you really can't.
Well, because like even myself, like since the podcast that we did, like I've got two suppressors. I haven't shot them yet. But like I didn't like, so the one is like a 22 suppressor. I'm not concerned about it in the least bit. The other one, is a 36 cal for like my 357 and the, 350 Legend, and 357 direct thread, but then I've got a quick disconnect for the 350 Legend, and then like for the untrained guy like me, you look at that like, are you supposed to use like getting it to shim using a rod, da 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 da, and I actually bought the simple one that there's no shims or no anything, but I did that completely by accident. Like I didn't know that like until I started like looking at it, and I was like, oh, well, I bought the idiot proof one. Good on me. But still, it's a little bit unnerving. And same thing, same question I asked you before, like when you build your Form 1 can and you're like, okay, I just put this thing together. I got the stuff back, and you're like, okay, I made this. Let's see if it doesn't blow up. Like nobody to blame but myself.
I tell you that I blew a baffle on my first shot with my Form 1. That was a little. I calculated the blast chamber wrong, and it was a little short, but luckily my Grendel made my blast chamber a little bigger. So it used to be a 7 baffle can, now it's a 6 baffle can.
Nice.
Nothing but pressure. Nothing but pressure. So yeah, it removed it for me, and then I just made a bigger spacer to take up the extra room and ran it with 6 baffles instead of 7.
So I want to shift gears a little bit here because both of you guys, Skeeter being involved in all this stuff, you had been to a bunch of the NRC meetings around like a lot of the predator hunting stuff that was going on before. And so you weren't a stranger to the meetings, and then Nate had been to some prior to this year. And the Rome, I mean, it was the Rome Syndicate guys as well as the Rome podcast guys were out in force at this last meeting. And whose idea was it to like live podcast golf commentary style? Like where did that idea come from?
One of those lunch call conversations me and Skeeter had during the week. Like we had talked about doing something leading to that meeting, podcast related. I think at that big meeting that we were at, or shortly after it, like, hey, we got to do something to like inform people or do more, like if we're going to be here. And then we just started talking on the phone. It's like, well, we can live stream it. And then that was just like, I don't remember who said it or how it happened. It kind of was like we both maybe thought of it at the same time. And then what birthed from that is what we did at the meeting. So just one of those ADD conversations that I got roped into and started talking about stuff. And it was like, I think we can do it. And then we had a bunch of other different ideas of how to do it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, dummy, we can just do it this way. And that's kind of how we ended up making it happen with the live stream going while we were talking over it.
And so basically what happened is these guys went there, set up, and did a podcast for 10 hours with a revolving door of guests. And I want to know, like, I want you guys to walk me through, like, walking in there in the morning, because I know going anywhere and doing like actual in-person podcast stuff where, like, I've done them at ATA, I've done them at TAC, I've done them at some of the different trade shows and stuff like that. And there's always people walking by, you're always setting up stuff, and people are always looking at you. And there's some like level of like, am I supposed to be doing this? Or, you know, are we going to get in trouble? Are we getting kicked out? And it's never like to the scale, I would say, of you guys. And all of you are freaking giant bearded men, essentially, to start.
Beefcake.
So
Beefcakes is what we were coined.
So maybe that's the reason that nobody said anything to you, or did they? But I want to know, like, walking in there, like, you guys walk in, you got your case full of headsets, your computer, extension cords, battery packs, all this stuff. And I want you to, like, walk me through, like, the initial setup, like scouting out your spot. Because this is a new venue. It wasn't just like in the Lansing place where you like knew, okay, this is where we can go. We can set up in this cubby. So
originally, me and Skeeter, we've been to the Treetop Resort before. So we're like, hey, there's like a lobby like down the hall downstairs. We'll just take that open lobby over and do it there. And then we like roll in, and it's like, nope, we're going to a building that we've never been to before. And I was in the truck with me, Tony Fellows, and Brian, the other guys that do the Rome podcast, and then our buddy Nick. And I think our average weight, I'm the smallest guy probably, and I'm 6'1", 260. So I'm not a slouch by any means. And I said, they're like, all like, what are you doing? I was like, me and Skeeter talked, we're just gonna roll in like we own the place. Like, we're gonna have all these pack out boxes. Joe is there with all his Milwaukee pack out stuff. So like, we got cameras and cases.
Joe has a cinema camera, like a freaking.
We just had everything. So my thought was, like, we walked in the door. I didn't even care about where the meeting was. I just started looking to see where their room was, and I went around the corner. I was like, oh, there's a bunch of circle tables here. Like, let's just take one of these tables and slide it into the corner. And that was like right when like the commissioners were like all in the separate room, and they're just like talking before the meeting starts. And I'm just like, hey, what's going on? I was like, you didn't know what's going on in this room today? Like, are you just doing breakfast? And I can't remember what commissioner it was. I was like, I have no idea what we're doing in here the rest of the day, but we're done now. And I was like, well, I'm going to take one of these tables. He's like, I don't care if you take one of those tables. And I'm like, that's all I need. That's all I needed. And we took over a corner of that room, and it was going really well. And then we hooked everything up, and it was nice because there was, 7 of us, or 4, 5, 6 or 7 of us guys there, and we just were all on the same page, right? Like, we just started doing it, getting things set up, and next thing you know, we got it rolling and hot. And it was pretty funny. People were like, what are you doing? I think the first time I texted Josh, I had shot him a message, said, hey, you need to come to this room and hop on this podcast with us. And he like walked in. He's like, what are you guys doing? Like, he was just like, what is this? And just throughout the day, that just kind of set the tone. And then we had to move because we kind of caused a little drama because we were in the spot we shouldn't have been in, but that wasn't until lunchtime. But Skeeter was just on it with the other guys and we made friends with the people who were preparing lunch, and we're like, hey, can we like get maybe another table in here? And then that was fine. Then the lady came in and said, oh no, you guys can't even be in here. And we're like, well, we just got a table for them. Like, no, you need to get out. And then we got another table and put it in the hallway where everyone's got to walk by. And that was a good call. Like, going out in that hallway, that was the way to do that.
Yeah, I kind of grabbed that dude that was working there, that was working all the tables, and I was like, hey man, can we get a table like this? And he goes, well, those are 2 8-footers put together. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Just please bring that out here and bring me one of those tablecloths. And I just said, well, please do this. And he said, okay, I'm on it. And then he was right back out, and he's like, how many chairs do you need? I go, I want you to go get us 4 chairs, and we'll get this all set up. And they set everything up for us. And then as the commissioners are walking in to have lunch, we're carrying the damn table out the double doors that has all the podcast stuff on it. and they're all waiting for us. So we transfer all the stuff, and then we come back in with their empty table and set it back down, and you may proceed.
Yeah, we definitely, there was a ripple there. People were like, what is going on? But we weren't shy, right? We were just talking, and there was no, we weren't being belligerent or anything like that. So I think everyone was just generally like, really intrigued by it and really liked it. Like one of the commissioners was taking pictures of us while we were doing it. So I mean, it was pretty cool.
We had the DNR come up and say, "Hey, can you guys please announce that bear permits and elk permits are due?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yep.
So I made that announcement in there and said, please remember to get your bear points and your elk points in, and apply for your licenses. And the Pure Michigan Hunt is available. And I kind of did a little plug for him, and the dude was just around the corner giving me the thumbs up, and yeah, they loved it.
It was really good.
There were some people listening inside because it was great when people would stick their heads out and kind of look at us like, giving us the thumbs up. Because at some point I was like, okay, this is feeling a little dry, so maybe I got a little spicy there for a bit, and what is this guy talking about? That kind of stuff. And yeah, then congratulating people as they came out, like, good job, man. We listened to what you said. And then there were others where it's like, volume down. We're going to go ahead and run a commercial and talk about the sponsors.
Yeah, it was good though. I mean, the coolest thing about it was just a lot of people don't know what the NRC meetings are. Like I didn't know what they were until I've been to couple, and this is just another way to like bring people there and get guys on that have been to them a lot and understand what's kind of going on. And man, like, but still, like we got done with that, like that worked. Like the idea worked, and it just came from having a good group of guys that are all driven to do the same thing, and it really went well. Jake left. Jake's like, screw work, I'm done at 11:30. I'm heading up to see his guys right when I had to leave, so that worked out really nice. But yeah, it was a good time. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a technology issue when we moved, but actually that was kind of a blessing in disguise because we actually learned how to control the audio a little better. We were doing all sorts of stuff and thought it was working, and then finally like, oh, this little bar right here, what will this do? And it's like, we figured out how to control the live stream a little better. But other than that, man, what a crazy fun time that was.
Yeah, no, and I think that we've got just from having that experience, we've got some things that we know we need to polish up, and I think we've kind of worked through those things, at least in theory, and then we'll set it up next time and be able to try it a different way. And I think we know what's going to work and what the dynamic needs to be and who needs to be in what place.
Yeah. And, I feel like there's a lot of things that now can take place like a little bit ahead of time. I mean, you're going to have ahead of time, you'll have the list of the 5-minute speakers, so you can get people on like before they come in and say like, hey, you want a little bit longer time, or you want to come see us like after. You kind of give us an idea of like what you're talking about. The big deal at that meeting was they were voting on the regulations. They threw a big wrench in there ahead of the thing, talking about the earn a buck, and there was some earn a buck presentation there. One thing that watching from home and that I still don't understand, and I haven't gone back and watched it, when they did the vote, what was the first thing that they voted on?
First thing that you have something else to say, Adam?
Well, when they were talking about, like, he started off by saying like, I feel like the fishing has a good way of doing this, and they have a good way of quantifying this, and they have a good way of laying out a process and all that stuff. And then they voted on like trying to get like a process or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about. I thought that the first vote was actually wasn't that the UP?
This was before that. That guy spoke on that, and then they said, "Hey, they said motion, blah blah blah," and then they voted, and like it was like 5-2. And so I guess we need to go back and look at that, because when I heard that, that made me like super nervous. Like that, I did not like that at all.
So anytime that there's something that, and we saw multiple things in this NRC meeting that should make people nervous. So this one that you're talking about, the process one, I'm not fully up to speed. I actually rely on Merle a lot too, Merle Jones from MTPCA, just because he's the guy that is in there and he's in, some of the commissioners' ears, and he learns a lot of things. And for the MTPCA, this is what he does. He goes to these NRC meetings, and he's not a lobbyist, but because he's not registered as one, but he's kind of advocate, I would say. So he helps me through a lot of these. But we saw that with whatever this process is that they voted on. We saw the crossbow in the UP for late season. And like some of it, we go, what, crossbow in the UP, does it really matter? No. Not really, because we kind of talked about that. You got to be a pretty diehard bow hunter at 72 years old to want to get in the woods in the UP in January or close to January, late December, and try to take a deer. The problem we should have with it is that when he starts saying, well, I got this email from this older gentleman, and we should be letting him get in the woods in December. I don't think he's wrong, but you need to have scientific data to back it up. And that's not scientific data to say that you got one email from an old guy who wants to get in the woods and you want to make that happen for him because you're in a position of power. That feels like BS. And then moving down the list, that dude's a problem. That commissioner's a problem, in my opinion. He called Zone 3 hunters sloppy. Should have been gavelled right out at that point and said, you are out of line. Like Becky Humphreys should have taken the reins on that and shut that down. Same guy that said he wouldn't walk to his blind in the dark because those hunters are sloppy in Zone 3 and he doesn't trust them. I talked about the ballistics of a 30-06 and in the wrong capacity, brought up 12-pound largemouth bass in Michigan and compared it to trophy whitetail hunting, and then said, if you want to find trophies, basically go south and get out of Michigan. I don't think we should be treating our sportsmen like that. I don't think we should be treating our resources like that. And because of Proposal G, everything should be backed up with scientific data. And not personal opinions or social sciences.
Objective, not subjective.
Yeah.
And not to defend the guy because I don't know him that well. He's relatively new to the commission, and he had a stroke or some medical episode earlier in the week. That's why he wasn't even there in person. But I don't think he really realized what he was like, how this operation works, because it's his first time, which all that does is solidify the idea that this whole entire thing needs some retooling and some work done. But I kind of pulled up just a quick search on the internet, Adam. Are you talking about one of the amendments that they added, that they were demanding measurable scientific goals for the future DNR deer policy recommendations?
It was like it was at that meeting, like right before they voted on the UP thing. They said, there's like measurable standards like for fishing and blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and there has to be like some sort of reworking of the processes for bringing forth these proposed changes.
That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's their data gathering. I believe that's what they're talking about, is the data gathering and the problems that they've found with the different check-in processes and the herd studies and the counting, and they're trying to like unify the way that it's done. So it's basically, we're going to retool the equation so everybody's using the same equation.
See, and the only reason that I say that and why I said that made me nervous is because listening to it after like the tone of the whole meeting and that guy spouting off about the largemouth bass and all that sort of stuff, that followed directly on the heels of that. And it just made it seem like a way to almost say, well, we want to table some of this stuff until we can get a good way to measure, because they do a better job with fishing. They do a better job with this stuff. And because that was one of the other complaints, is like there was all the stuff that was brought, but there was no good data. There was no consistent data from any of these things, and they were saying, oh, there was just this one thing from West Virginia, and oh, there was just these one things, and they're trying to compare us to different states, but Michigan's a different state, so we need to have better measures in place, da 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 da. And then they voted that, saying yes, we do need to make these changes. So I was like, this is not good, because it sounded to me like it sounded like it opened the door for them to say, okay, well, we're going to hold off on all this stuff until we can figure out how to measure it. I don't know.
I think that the way that those things are said, like I was in a different frame of mind because I just got done talking to Elliot about West Virginia, and I was looking at his data, and when they kind of brought up some of the things, like Becky Humphreys was talking about West Virginia and the earn a buck rule and how she saw that it had been operated and how it had worked. Well, I just got done talking with Elliot about, that 70% of the doe check-in was ghost doe. Like it was misrepresented to the earn a buck side. So coming off the heels of that conversation, I was like, oh, maybe they're realizing that some of this data is not good that they have, and they're going to need to collect more data before we go into a $1 thing. But then to have Nyberg, jump right in and really park that earn a buck thing onto the $1 to make it, and then leave the UP alone.
That was cowardly. I feel like I'll die on that hill. That's just bowing down to that, mob that is the UP hunter. And, I'm sorry. I've hunted up there my whole life. Frankly, a lot of that, it's like why I kind of like went away from hunting in the UP for a while. Because it's just this mentality that you just, I don't know. It's really difficult to like explain to somebody that only hunts that November 15th is their holiday. It's their, it is their Christmas, and they're going to tell you how to hunt and tell you what is right and wrong. And it's like, dude, I've had 30 sits before today. Like,
right.
I don't, you're not going to tell me anything that I don't know. And, I might be able to tell you a thing or two, but you're right. Obviously, you know all from your shack, and,
you trophy buck hunter, you.
Well, but this is the other thing about that. And like, I this is what I don't understand. Like the whole trophy buck thing and the whole buck dynamic, age class, whatever. Like, honestly, if you, at least for me, if I'm stepping back and I'm saying, okay, we want to look at this at like a balanced herd, if that's like really truly the object thing, and all of these freaking clowns are saying, I'm going to shoot every button buck that I see. Who cares? Who cares? You're taking deer off of the landscape. You're allowing for more resources for the deer that do survive. Like, you haven't shot, you know what? And by doing so, inevitably you're going to accidentally shoot some does trying to shoot a button buck, you moron. Like because you shoot button bucks trying to shoot does, you'd think it's not going to go the other way. Like, I mean, like, but everybody gets so wrapped up in like, this is only about the bucks. It's only about the bucks. It's only about the bucks. In reality, it's trying to, I mean, at the root of this whole thing, is it not about trying to rebalance the herd? And yes, getting more bucks balances the herd, but you need like an exorbitant amount of more bucks with the amount of does that we have. So you have to take more bucks or more does off the landscape. So by one buck, it leaves more bucks on the landscape to try to balance that out when we need to take out more does. And like Josh said on one of the first podcasts that we did, like one of the like side effects of that is going to be a better age structure, but like that isn't necessarily the point. The point is to get a better, but that's all that anybody latches on to because it's a fun talking point. It's what everybody wants. It's easy. It's low hanging fruit, you know.
Low hanging fruit, easy. Yep.
But this whole thing is like so subjective. Everybody wants it to be about me. I mean, I had to have this conversation with my dad about like, look, if you just take yourself out of it, if you just take your feelings away and think about what is best for like the overall state of hunting in the state of Michigan, then maybe you could like just kind of like see past the end of your own nose and think that this might be something that's not so bad. I mean, I had a conversation with a guy at the Bowman's Club the other day, and he was like, no, I'm not for it, blah, 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 you know, and he tried to give me all this, you know, rigmarole about how he's a traditional bow hunter and he's got to shoot, you know, from the ground and all of this other stuff. And he's got to shoot, you know, he's a body shooter because he's got to, you know, he's, you know, they're only so accurate and blah, 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 blah. And then he goes on to say, well, you know, where I hunt is in the APR zone now, and all the deer, you know, all these bucks. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, we got great bucks. And I said, and I'll bet you 10 years ago when they put in the APR, you were stomping your foot and kicking and crying. And now you're saying, well, it's great. So, I mean, just, you know, maybe, you know, this might not be so bad if you just, you know, give it a chance. You know, I don't know. Everybody has an opinion until, you know, it's going to be the worst thing until you give it a chance, and then no, maybe it works, you know, and maybe it doesn't. Like, and I'm sure, I think it was you that said it because you're not, you're not that kind of guy with like this big ego or whatever. Like, if it doesn't work, you'd be the first one to say like, it didn't work. Like, we need to try something else, but at least we tried, you know?
Exactly. That's what I took out of that day too. And, you know, the whole Nyberg with the UP, what he did there, that was political 101. Like, you learned that in political school, that you want what you want and you want to appease just enough people, so you kind of tack that on at the end. And that's kind of what happened. So I think that's why a lot of people are like, all you guys who've been advocating for this, like, why are you not more excited? Like, you got one buck and you got this and you got that. And two of the reasons why is one of them was that whole ordeal, the earn a buck thing, and how that went about just really felt wrong. And like, it seems like the system is in place to handle business a certain way, and how that came to be didn't really feel like it fit in that ideal or that mold that the NRC meetings and all this stuff's supposed to be, with the DNR advocating for things and, you know, all that. And then, you know, the earn a buck thing, like that's just a whole can of worms, and the UP staying the same, status quo, kind of left a bad taste in their mouth. And then the last thing that really has me kind of just like, is they, instead of doing it for 26, they push it at 27. So a lot can happen from now until, you know, next year. So I think that's why there was like a lot of us who are advocating, we know our job's not done. Like, we still got to, be doing these things. But like, let's not kid ourselves. If one buck was only about increasing the size of the antlers or creating more opportunities for guys to fill their walls with deer, this would not have the traction it has. The DNR would not have put the effort they put into it. One buck does, when you limit the bucks that it can be taken on landscape and you force hunters to shoot does opposed to bucks, that does increase balance, that does, make the herd healthier because you're taking more does across landscape, especially in areas where they're very buck centric, like Michigan is. Like, we're good at shooting bucks, and the DNR knows that. Like, they're still anticipating guys to harvest a lot of bucks, even with one buck rule. But they're just hoping that happens along with some more does getting shot in these areas, because guys want to hunt and guys want to shoot deer. And that's all this is. If it was only like, oh man, we're going to shoot, way less bucks and they're going to be giant deer run over in 10 years, like, that's not what the byproduct of a healthy deer herd is an older age class of bucks that equals big antlers. One buck rule has got much more going for it than just big antlers. Like, it's just the mindset, all these other, like, I can just go through all these options. Anyone who's been listening to podcasts, guys that support it, they go through the chain of things that you can talk about with it. And then if you listen to the guys who are wholeheartedly against one buck and want to have 2 buck tags, listen to what they say. Like, they contradict themselves. Like, your guy at the Bowman's Club, right? He's talking about this and that, but man, I'm in the APR, there's bucks everywhere. It's like, dude, why is it good hunting in the APR zone? Because we're limiting the bucks that can be killed. And that is the ripple effect you have on the resource in that way. And the age structure is better, and it's been proven that in those zones, when you have limitations on bucks, that more does get shot, the herd balance is better, the buck-to ratio is better, and just equates to a better overall product and a healthier, sustainable deer herd. So that's where this is all coming from, folks.
And realistically, they really kind of took their own foot off the gas. And if you were really one of these staunch one buck guys and you wanted to say, like, what really needed to happen, and I'm not that guy, right? But to really make that quick effect, right, would have been to do it with the APR. Mm-hmm. And I think these commissioners took the APR off kind of to appease the public, the squeaky wheel. And I actually kind of like the way that they did it by saying, if you just want to buy one buck tag, you're going to have an APR. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a doe permit. And I think that the way that they did that, I thought was kind of ingenious, really. Yeah. And the thing is, like, all these guys that want to cry about, I'm going to shoot whatever I want, they're saying, here, go ahead. But you're going to have a doe permit too. So have at it. And, whether it works or it doesn't, who cares? But like I said, I said it a million times, like, you're not taking that last buck away from somebody. You're not taking that first buck away from somebody. And I really do appreciate that sentiment. But who knows? But if you really, really wanted to make, like, that quick lasting impact, just like you said about what happened in the APR zone, like putting an APR across the whole state would have done that, but then it would have only been for trophy hunters. It would have been only for this. So, I mean, that was, I think, their compromise.
So if you want to impact the deer herd and they want to drop those doe numbers, I think we've talked about it a lot, but the does, making that easier for sportsmen to actually get something taken care of. So if they're out there and, they don't live on wild game and they're not eating wild game all the time, and you're asking them to take something that's just meat, doesn't have that trophy aspect to it of having a bone on top of its head, you're committing to $100 bill if you're not cutting it up at your house, like, or more. I don't know, because I cut all of mine. Mm-hmm. So I process all my own deer. So let's say it's $125. So you're going to be into this, here's your 10 doe tags. Here's $1,200 that you need to spend to process this meat, because if you're a sportsman, you're not going to leave it lay.
Yeah.
Or you can only give so much away. If we've got the Sportsmen for Hunger program is still out there and severely underutilized by both the hunters and the DNR. I think the DNR has 7 reefer units where you can drop off animals for Sportsmen for Hunger, and I think that is a low number, especially with the cost of a reefer unit. It's like you could set those things everywhere and get this done. I know that there's some other programs that are being explored. If you could drop that cost of entry to be part of the management program and take those does, and not have it, break the bank, I think that changes it a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And like people don't, if you don't know these guys who are a strong voice for $1, like anyone that you've heard on podcasts, the conversations that are going on like on a weekly basis or a daily basis is so centralized and focused on does. It's incredible. Like me and Josh Arbrias talk quite often. Like we have to do a podcast just talking about hunting bucks to like talk about like how he's targeting a buck. Like we are just like, what can we do to do the things Skeeter just talked about? Like what do we got to do? Like we have plans in place like to do all this stuff. It is not focused on antler size. It is focused on we got to have more hunters available to take these does off the landscape. And like it's a constant conversation. Elliot, Jordan, Lincoln, all these guys that you hear and see on social media that are advocating for this, the amount of discussions going on talking about the doe it's a lot. Like it's a lot of effort. A lot of things are being, trying to get worked out on. And like when these things went down and how it happened, like the earn a buck, one of the things too, like not to discredit that earn a buck, like it could work better in Michigan than it worked in West Virginia. Yes, it could. But to create a earn a buck program or to have that happen in the state of Michigan is kind of dirty. Like it muddies the waters a little bit because we are going through and we're adding potentially 3 buck tags in the state. Like that's a big deal. When we go $1 on the combo or like the single tag being a buck tag or a doe tag, however they want to do that, that is an extremely easy process to do it legally. And then if in 3 years or in 2 years or in 5 years we're like, hey, this didn't work at all, we can revert back to the normal way. Snap their fingers, they can do it. So like that's another thing guys aren't like really talking about a lot with it. Like just to add a period to like the rule book costs like, what was it? Was it 6 figures? Skeeter, do you remember when she said that at the last meeting? Yeah. Like just to change one little thing is extremely expensive. So there's a lot that goes into that.
But it was a lot. And I think that's what made me so upset and leery about this amendment that was put forward is there was pork in there and you go, okay, so we haven't seen this like this before. So if the $1 pilot study gets, thrown in the garbage, does the whole amendment get thrown out? And then, we're staring at 2027 season, so we've backed it off a year. Well, in the middle of 2027 or the beginning of 2027, we're going to have 5 different commissioners.
Yep.
So you've got a whole new set of eyes on this thing, and do they just go, yeah, that program's not, we tried it for a year, it just didn't work, so we're going to throw that whole thing out. So now we're back to $2, everything's the same, like where does it end? Or did they just cut out that one little part? It felt super irresponsible to put that forward without even having a plan as to like, when we listened to the DNR say, we can't man that. Yeah. We can't doe check. We can't deer check. We cannot man it. They said we cannot. And they were like, well, we'll come up with something, and then put that forward
by July.
And pick some southern DMUs that we're going to try to do earn a buck in. And
well, and that's one of the things, and I'm glad you guys brought that up because that is one thing where, you would think like, oh, this is all just going to go away. Like all these $1 guys, they got their $1 or whatever, so we don't have to do anything anymore, and we'll just wait. Well, in reality, like nothing's changing until 2027, and they have to come up with these rules, these changes, and even these DMUs for these doe things for this year, right? And there's a lot of questions there just for this year between now and August or whatever. So you're going to have a universal doe tag, and it's going to be by county or by township or by whatever. Yeah. How does that work? Is it going to work like Montana bear, where there's a quota and you check in your deer, and then when it on the app, and then when it's gone, like they send out an email that says, "Oh, you're out. This unit is closed."
Potentially, but that's not what the DNR has recommended or anyone has. It's more of you have your universal doe tags. Like I have 10, or all of us we could buy 10.
You have 5, right?
No, that was proposed, but they didn't do that. We're still going to have 10 universal tags, which to me, I understood the mindset, like limit the amount of tags so guys would be encouraged to fill them instead of being like, well, I know Joe Schmo down the road, he's buying 10 tags, so he's got me covered. I think that if you went down to 5, it kind of took away that mindset a little bit because a lot of guys have complained about, well, there's so many doe tags and I'm not buying it because all these other guys are shooting them, blah, blah. But anyways, no, the 10 universal tags is still, like, we can still buy 10. But, like, I'll just use the county that I live in, Kent County. They're going to put a cap at how many of my tags can be punched in Kent County. And it may be all 10 because it's a high deer density area. But then you go north to one of the northern counties, like, let's say, Misaki or Osceola or Montcalm or whatever. Like, Kent County may be 10, Montcalm may be 5, Misaki may be 2. So, like, I could only fill 2 of my universal tags in Misaki. I could not shoot 3 does. That's kind of like the thought process to how they are going to do that. Not necessarily saying, and they may pair that with a quota system, but everything I've seen and talked to people, it's more of that way. Like, you have 10 tags, but you can only fill X amount in this county of your universal tags per hunter.
How does that make any sense?
It's convoluted.
Encouraging people who don't typically shoot does to feel like, well, they're only allowed so. It's the same mindset of taking away the 10 to 5, but saying like, hey, we are paying attention. We know that we don't need to shoot a ton of them in these areas. These are the hot spots that we want to encourage guys to fill these doe tags. Is kind of the thought process. And to me, I'm not really sure what that's going to, I mean, to me, it makes sense because like, to me, it doesn't make sense because it's pretty easy for me to like do trail cameras studies and talk to my neighbors and understand how many does I have in the area and know that, hey, we could shoot X amount of does and we communicate with each other. And I can drive around the block and see and like, oh yeah, I can shoot a lot. But I don't know if a lot of guys are doing that because they may not be in ag field country or they may not have those relationships. So this is just a way of saying like, hey, these are the hot spots. Let's really fill these doe tags in these areas.
How much competition do you think that creates? And then there's a little bit of competitive hunting when you go, just like a turkey tag. If you could only get so many in your county, Adam, for us, if it's like Muskegon County, and we go, okay, there's 160 does that can be killed in Muskegon County. Like, I'm probably going to hunt Muskegon County early, and I'm going to get my doe knocked out here at home.
But that's that quota system, right? But if it says that I can kill 2 in Muskegon County, I can kill 4 in Newaygo County, I can kill, 3 in Lake County, and so can you, then that doesn't make any sense because if you just, but if they do have a quota, then that changes things dramatically. But how do they track that? But the making sense of it is like, if everybody can shoot, you just limit it so I can only shoot 2 here. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
That doesn't work because you got guys that have a pile of tags in their pocket and then they go, oh, I'm waiting, and
and then to me that and I know I read one of Nate's comments, so
I've been commenting on stuff.
That's an understatement. But it said, it's ignorant to think that this is just going to make poachers out of guys, just because the rules have changed and these guys saying like, oh, we're just going to do this stuff like that. But if you were someone who was A, disgruntled, and B, you were somewhere where they limited it to one or no does or something. And they took away your buck tag or whatever. And you're like, screw it, I'm going to shoot this doe, and then I'm going to go on my app and I'm going to register it in on the Capitol building. I'm going to register it in the center of Lake Superior. I mean, I know that wouldn't like necessarily, changing these regulations doesn't automatically make somebody a poacher, but that kind of a, thing, how do you say that that's not happening? That seems to open up that a lot more than, because you've already pissed these people off and now you're just like stoking the fire with other things.
It's interesting to me because like when I went, I think was it Illinois or maybe it was Missouri. Like, you kill a deer, like you got to tell them what county it was in. Like that's just normal stuff. I feel like, and like Michigan just never been that way, so that's why it's such an odd thing for people. Like you got to tell them where. Like when I shot a buck in Kansas, like I had a list of things I had to do.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you have to take a picture of it as it lays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
and then you have to say what county and all that.
And I wasn't like, oh, I need to lie right now. Like, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, they want to know where this was shot. Like, that makes sense to me. That's like that's a good practice. And now Michigan's trying to do some of these things and just has extreme pushback for it. And
so let's quickly talk about interactions with conservation officers that we've all had, not in the state of Michigan.
Okay.
Like, I have used wildlife officers in Missouri, in Kansas, in Ohio. They've helped me recover deer. They've put me into different areas to go, hey, if you guys hunted down here, like there's a tract that we just bought, state land, and they've gotten me into those things. And I don't know that since my favorite officer retired a long, long time ago, I don't know if I've ever had those interactions with Michigan COs. I know that there's good ones out there, but I do know that with Michigan COs, the consensus is, here comes Mr. Green Jeans. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing wrong? Are we doing something wrong there? Or it's the prove that you guys aren't doing something wrong now.
Yeah. Because probably because we all were raised with people who did things wrong.
Maybe.
Like, that's why. I know that's probably why I heard that, because I think there was some shady stuff going on when I was 5 years old. So, like, But
yeah, and maybe that's it. But like, I think that the trust level is low, and when the trust level is low, every time the NRC commission or the DNR comes out with another thing that they go, we're doing this, it's like you get that's bullshit. That is bullshit. DNR, they're and there's a distrust,
more government. More government involvement. Like, I get it.
But I think there has to be something about like funding or something there too, because I know that there's not very many in our area for sure. And then like I've had very few interactions this year. Probably I'm going to be freaking berated now because I've just said this.
Knock on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
But last year or 2 years ago, I was taking my daughter out turkey hunting on the mentored youth hunt, and like that turkey tag is valid anywhere, anytime, whatever. But I did not have a tag for the same season that my daughter was hunting in, and Nate and I had this conversation. So I called the DNR field office, and I got somebody on the other end of the line that basically didn't know the question that I was asking. And I'm like trying to walk them through like my question of like, my daughter has a tag. She's 7 years old or 8 years old or whatever she was. She has a tag. I don't have a tag. I'm the mentee or mentor, I guess. Can I carry the shot? Am I a felon? Like, can I, can I carry the shotgun? Like, I'm not the shooter. I'd have no intention, but I want to know, like, is this okay? Nowhere in the book, nowhere in the rule book, none of these things. And they're like, well, I don't know. Do you have a tag? Like, I just said I don't have a tag. Like, I don't have this season, but she can hunt, but she needs someone to go with her. And, basically we decided that it was okay, but I was like, this could end up being not good. But I'm like, what is your name? I wrote down her name. Like, what's a phone number to call you back at?
Yeah.
Like, this is who I talked to. This is when. Are these calls recorded? Like, but I just have to chalk that up to like, they only have so many people. I'm sure it was like an intern or somebody that was just working in the call center or whatever. But, you just have to, I guess, think about that stuff too, because if you've sat in one of those meetings and they talk about,
Funding.
it's freaking Bernie Sanders, like, I need your money. Like,
Yep.
I've had a lot of interactions with our local CEOs that we have here, and they have a hard job. I don't think that a lot of times there's a lot of joy when they're running into hunters from the hunter side. So, but I've had to have some pretty uncomfortable conversations. I think I'm a relatively easy person to get along with.
I got 16 guns in my
yeah,
pants.
but you know what? I've had to have those conversations to go, so this is what I'm planning on doing because this is how I read the rules, and give me your take. Like, what's the conversation that we're going to have after I do this? So I've had a couple of those. And I've had some wishy-washy moments, and there's been some things that I've had to go up to the lieutenant, and I've had to have him call me from Lansing, and we've made some decisions that way. And I go, okay, so if I wasn't Skeeter calling you, what's to say that the people that I talked to originally, that another hunter's not going to get in trouble because what you're telling me is what I thought. And they told me I better not do it. So, and I guess I'll just tell you the scenario. I wanted to shoot coyotes on Muskegon Lake. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take my 22 mag out there and I'm going to do it. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, well, we're talking about zone 3, zone 2 in the shotgun line. And if I'm above the shotgun line and I'm after dark, I can use my center fire rifle. I can shoot in the middle of Muskegon Lake with my center fire rifle. Is it recommended? Probably not. I mean, now this is on the ice in the middle of the night and I'm using thermal. I know the capabilities of my gun. Should everybody be doing it and advertising it? No. But I thought, I wonder if I could. So if I could go off Snug Harbor and I could use the dunes as a backdrop and I can shoot coyotes, I can call them right out of the state park that I normally can't hunt.
Yep.
I can call them right onto the ice and I can smack them. That's direct competition for my deer that live in my backyard. I live across the street from the state park that I cannot hunt. So this is starting to sound like a great idea. This is where everybody duck hunts. Shooting's normal. I can see everything with the thermal. So I call and say, JM, I'm going to do this. What problems are we going to have when I'm walking up the boat launch, dragging a bunch of coyotes with my rifle over my shoulder? And she's like, you can't, I wouldn't do that. I go, I'm not asking if you would. I'm not asking what's the conversation that we're going to have. And she said, don't do it. Just go find yourself a chunk of state land somewhere and shoot coyotes there. And I go, I'll kill a lot of coyotes. It's not about other coyotes. I'm talking specifically about these ones that howl and keep me up at night and worry my chickens, and I'm gonna get them. And then once she kind of started pushing back and I thought I was in the right, I was like, okay, I'm taking this to the highest level. Like I want to know what the answer is. I didn't get the answer from Mom. I'm going to Dad. So it was like, then she gave me the lieutenant's number and he's like, hey, Skeet, as the rules are written, you're absolutely right. You can. He goes, it's probably not the safest to skip a bullet across the ice. And I go, oh, I'm right there with you. I go, but I was told no. And as I read the rules, the answer is yes. So I just want a definitive answer, like legal or not. And if it's not safe based on scientific data, change the rules. Because like I like what I'm reading, I should be able to. And he's like, yeah, you're right. You should be able to. So we had to have a meeting, like a little Zoom meeting, and go, okay, like this is the rule, and this is how it can be done, and got back into that. Well, I don't know if I would if I were you. That's not what we're talking about. We're
Nope.
talking about black and white. And I guess what really, really upset the CO was I said, that's your interpretation of the law. And she was not thrilled with the interpretation of the law comment. Now, I think we've made up. We've texted each other a few times about some other things, and I've gotten some good rulings out of some things that she's told me yes or no. But unfortunately, too many people know that those things have taken place, and I'm Skeeter who does the fishing report, so I constantly get calls that go, Skeeter, can I go to the pond behind Babbitt's and catch giant bluegills? And I go, no, you cannot. Like, you need permission. So I've had to have some of those calls and talk with them about that. They're not necessarily great interactions all the time.
So how many coyotes did you shoot?
0.
Why?
With the center fire, I shot 0.
Oh, you decided to go a little different.
I did.
I like it.
How many did you shoot with the 10mm Glock?
0.
I love it. We don't need all the secrets.
But you know what? If you do, I will
Are your
tell
chickens
you.
sleeping better at night?
Yeah, those ice fishermen that are out there, every single time when they're out there, they take their, get done with their bait, or they get bit halfway off, they throw it right there next to the hole. And if the seagulls towards the end of the night don't get it, the foxes come a calling.
Could you foot trap a coyote on the ice?
Oh, I've tried. And you can. But it involves hay.
Oh, to keep it from freezing.
No, hay sets. You put a little bit of bait. You can set a trap on the ice, and you can actually anchor it to the ice with an earth anchor.
Yep.
And then you put hay on top of the ice, and just that hay being on top of the ice, you can put some scent and things like that in there, but a coyote from a mile away will go, oh, there is a big pile of something over there, and they're coming.
Oh, visual. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. So you can okay. No, I'm good. That
But again, it was one of those where it's like, it's a little bad when people are getting on the ice in the morning and there's this dog jerking on its leg trying to get away, and little kids are trying to ice fish. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I'm still in the right?
Yeah, you're still doing your thing.
Yeah, but not socially recommended.
Love it. Oh, so now we all know a little more about Skeeter. I like it.
Yeah, and so what's going on with you're doing some stuff with the podcast, and I think that's quickly expanding. Like I told Nate, I said we got a guy that can talk guns, but I think he can do a little bit more, and I think we're finding that out very rapidly. But what's going on with Experience Wild?
So Experience Wild, I guess when we bought that from Bow Hunter Planet, it was one of those things where we wanted to make a network. We wanted to make a network of different podcasts, different outdoor stuff, and the name was available, and experiencewild.com was available, and it was kind of a sought after name. So it's like, okay, we're going to scoop this up. So got the name. Was starting the podcast as Experience Wild Podcast before the Rome approach. And then recently, like extremely recently, within the last 6 hours, Nate and I have had conversations of, hey, what do we do with Experience Wild and how does that enhance Rome? And since I have the website, like, what can we do with like, the different merch stuff that we're doing, the different things that we're going, the fishing report, Rome, Rome Syndicate, Rome podcast, and how do we roll this all into something where it's a jump point where we can get sportsmen involved and we can all benefit each other.
Yeah.
So long and the short right now, nothing. Is there things in the works? Yes. Like Experience Wild still gets, the social media posts and things like that. And there's still a following there. But it is a little gem that's just waiting to shine.
All right. So experiencewild.com, you got Experience Wild YouTube, social media. Skeeter's Fishing Report, where can you find that?
Skeeter's Fishing Report on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is probably our biggest platform for Skeeter's Fishing Report. I post on there almost weekly to let everybody know what's happening in the lakes in West Michigan. And we've talked about expanding that. So there's other bait shops that are further north that have said, hey, can we roll at Skeeter's Fishing Report into our area too? And it's like, yeah, if I can talk as long as you can get me the intel, the thumb on the pulse of the lake that you're on. So it's pretty easy to put those things together and get them posted up. But the information gathering is the hardest part. If you don't have a good network of people, which I have here in West Michigan, I can shoot off that mass text to about 50 people right away, and they funnel it back through and go, hey, don't tell anybody I told you, but here is the down low on what's happening on the big lake. And, the Lake Michigan stuff is really, really hot, especially this time of year when they see all these Facebook posts of guys with salmon, and you put one guy in the lake for 2 hours, like my phone lights up. Like, what is the color? What is the depth right now? Because I've got to get my picture posted on the internet with a salmon because all of my friends are.
The water's flipping, boys. The water's flipping.
The water's flipping. Run to the pier heads.
Yep.
And so can we expect like monthly NRC commentary? Is that the plan going forward?
Yep.
That is the plan going forward. I think it went off really well. I think our goal, and as we kind of talked about, is like maybe the average sportsman is sitting at home right now going, we got a $1 rule, it coming in 2027, and I think more experienced people who have dealt with the NRC and seen some things go differently than what they expected. Now is not the time to take the foot off the gas. Yep. Now is the time to solidify the decisions that have been made. And, when those guys do those 5-minute public comments, which I really enjoy, there's some that are super informative. There's some that are really entertaining. I mean, but the 5-minute forum is not for the decision that is going to be made at the end of it. That decision's already been made. This decision was made before they started that whole meeting. Like, they knew that what was going to be passed. We heard it from John Walters. John Walters immediately was like, I want you guys to know that no matter what we've decided here today, we have decided here today. And I wrote the language down. Yeah. I want you to know I was not involved. And they cast the vote, and he was right. Like, he was the nay, and the others were for. So you are doing the 5-minute public comment for the next one. So I hope that everybody that did 5-minute comments is coming to the next one.
Yeah.
You have to keep up on these things. And if you don't represent, if we're not there to help sportsmen represent themselves, they're going to make decisions without you.
Yeah.
Got to be there.
Yeah, and I think that's what the whole Experience Wild clashes really well with Rome, because that's what we kind of want to be. We want to be the, all the outdoorsmen. That's why we have all these little avenues throughout the podcast and different hosts and those things. And that's what the NRC means are. They're not just deer. They're not just fish. It's everything. And we should all be informed of these things and understand what's going on and knowing who's representing us and how we're being represented, what kind of guys are speaking and what are they speaking on. And yes, for a long time, it felt like people were talking and no one listened, right? And that's kind of how it felt like it was going to happen this last month. Like no one's been listening for the past year. And, they did actually do some change because we did have some legit backing, scientific data per se. The best data we could have. Is it the best data we should have moving forward? No, I think we need more data, but there was data supporting the fact that we needed change in Michigan. And that's what kind of birthed this whole thing. But yeah, the lives me and Skeeter were already talking today about whoever we can get to go to those every month, try to have a live going. And I don't know if it'll be 10 hours every time or if it'll be how it'll be, but we definitely want to continue to do that to let guys tune into it if they have the ability to at work, or maybe they will just watch it later and they can hear us talk about what our interpretation of some of the stuff was. Try to get smarter people than us on as guests to maybe explain what was happening. But there's some really good stuff that comes on those meetings, like the hydro dam. We brought that up a couple different times. Like I wasn't even aware of that until we had that a couple months ago. There's all this forestry stuff, ice damage, the flooding, how it affected the fish, the coyote stuff. Like there's a lot of things they have to juggle, and we're going to keep advocating for the resource, keep advocating for the better deer hunting in Michigan, better everything. Like let's have these NRC meetings be better. Let's have this system of operations better, so we can just keep rolling. But yeah, I'm hoping to make it to the next two for sure, and hopefully be around for this whole doe DMU thing. Like Adam brought up some good points just tonight that, a lot of guys are thinking the exact same thing you're thinking. And I can just say what I've seen and what I've heard, but to be honest, I don't know what that's going to look like. And I would like to be around for that. And, we've talked to some of the commissioners that have said they want to come on and do a podcast, and maybe that avenue is the right thing. Hey, can you give us 5 minutes on your lunch break and just kind of break down how you feel is going? Like those are the kind of behind the closed doors feel we want to have with this live podcast.
Awesome. Well,
and I really want to interview that lady from the attorneys for animals.
I told you, and I even heard Nate say it on the live. Like I'm 100% in. That was like one of the first things I said when we got in the car. I was like, I want to talk to that lady. Like, I think I could have a good conversation. And even the one guy that was talking about like the coyotes or whatever, he was bummed about. I was like, one thing I think that really should happen, like when somebody goes up there to take their time, like the next time that we go up there, like if I go up there to speak, like one of the things I think that doesn't get, and I don't know how long those people stay. I don't know if they say their piece and bug out, but those people that are like against the grain, so to speak, like so the wild things lady, wild ones, and like I said, the guy that was with the coyote or whatever, I think those people need to be thanked for like having the courage to go up there and speak in a room full of bearded heathens like yourselves, that are absolutely diametrically opposed to their beliefs, at least in their mind, because it takes a lot to go up there and do that. And I don't think that they realize how much we really do care about the animals, but it's great that they care just as much as we do. They just have a different way of showing it. And I don't think they ever hear that, and they probably don't, understand, that there are people that feel that way. So
I'll keep saying this. I'll keep saying this, Adam. Like the first meeting I went to, there was 10 times the amount of people who are anti-hunters or in some way, shape, or form, or for the animals or whatever. So this change of that being the room full of outdoorsmen versus people who don't like hunting or can't believe that we would even think of it. There was more of those in the 5-minute conversation than what we had. So it's relatively a new change, but there are a couple of them who have stayed strong, and I think they let them go first for a reason, which make it easy on them. And yeah, I mean, it would be tough for me to go talk in front of 250 anti-hunters that know that they hate how I do things, and I got to try to say my piece because I believe in it. And yeah, it would be great to have a conversation with them. And one other thing I want to say, like in Skeeter's defense, or not defense, but to support what he said about the having public comment, your voice is heard. Last month, the one lady got up there and she sat there for hours with us. She didn't talk, I don't think, until towards the end of the 5-minute or middle of the 3-minute. I can't remember. But she got up and said, we have rehabilitation program for these animals, and they weren't allowed to take deer at a certain time of the year. And she had said, well, you can't tell me times like a car deer accident happens and we have this, fawn, or she was saying it was like a spotted fawn, which I don't think the timeline doesn't make sense. It was just a yearling, and we're not allowed to legally take them. Well, they changed that at this meeting, that you can now take, accept deer 24/7, I believe, for that. So her voice was heard. She probably brought attention to something that no one was really thinking about, and they did some digging and said, yeah, you're right, that is kind of a weird rule. Let's change that for the deer, for your program. And she got it. So, I mean, they do pay attention to things that are brought up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to it, and I'm going to have to make the trip, if not for nothing, just to be on the panel of married men there. So, but appreciate it, fellas, and love everything that you guys are doing, that we're able to kind of bring together. And thanks for coming on. And every time you're doing something out there, watching the roam stuff, you see Skeeter's fishing report, you think in the back of your head, am I a felon? Leave you guys with that.
Yeah.